Okay, so if someone gave you $10,000, what would you do with it? Would you take that $10,000 and put it down on a brand new vehicle? Would you pay off some debts? Would you invest it? Now, if your goal is to turn that $10,000 into $1 million as quickly as possible, then make sure you keep listening because that is what we are talking about today, and we are starting right now. Hey, what is up, everyone? My name is Sean. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. If you are all about financial freedom, investing, entrepreneurship, then this is a channel for you. So be sure to check out some of my other videos when you get a chance, preferably after watching this video. Okay, so you have $10,000. Seriously, congratulations, because did you know that you are part of only 25% of people who literally have $10,000 or more? Now, the reason why I love the $10,000 mark is I really do believe that this is the first benchmark when it comes to building wealth. You see, this is the first time where you actually have enough money to really do something pretty big if you make the right decision. So I'm going to talk about some of the steps that I would take to quickly turn that $10,000 into $1 million as quickly as possible. So one thing that I learned very early on is that you cannot save your way to wealth. Okay, so you can't just take that money, put it in a bank account, and expect one day to get wealthy. You have to invest it, and invest it as aggressively as you can. So let's talk about what an investment is. So an investment simply is just anything that grows in value or puts money in your pocket every single month. Now, typically when we talk about investments, we're talking about two main things: assets and liabilities. It's very important to understand the difference because sometimes people invest in things that aren't actually assets. So let's start with liabilities. Liabilities are things that take money away. So it decreases in value or it takes money out of your pocket. That could be cars, watches, vacations, TVs, clothes. These are things that do not grow in value. Now, of course, some people are going to put in the comments,
"Oh yeah, well I bought a watch for $5,000 and sold it for $10,000.
In the case of a business, sure. But when you're just talking about personal use, these things are a no-go. We do not want this. So let's talk about assets for a second. Assets are things that increase in value and add cash flow to your bank account. So let's talk about what that would be. Real estate, stocks, businesses, could be crypto. Anything that can grow in value, put money in your pocket every single month is an asset. If we're going to create financial freedom, we have to make sure that our money is going towards assets. What should I invest in now that I have this $10,000? Keep in mind that in this particular video, we're talking about how to maximize $10,000 to $1 million as quickly as possible. So while there are a lot of great investments, like let's say index funds, which I talk about extensively on my channel, that in particular is not going to be a great investment in this case. Okay, but let's talk about why. On average, returns about 10% per year. And historically, they beat individual stocks 94 to 96% of the time over a 10+ year period. So, but why am I saying now in this particular case not to invest in an index fund? That is because, let's say you have $10,000. And let's say that you get a 10% return. That's only going to leave you with $11,000. Listen, you're not going to create massive wealth in the short term only collecting 10% interest. Okay, if we're going to have any chance at getting from $10,000 to $1 million, let's say in the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe 15 years, we're going to have to get much more than 10%. We're going to need to be getting 30, 50, 100% returns or more on our money. And that's not going to happen with index funds. So let's talk about what we should be doing and the steps that I would take to get this as quickly as possible. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to suggest to you, which might actually surprise you, is not an investment at all, but it's to pay off your high interest debts first. If you have anything in the high single digits, and absolutely if they're double digits or higher in interest, we want to make sure that before we do any investing whatsoever, that we have to pay off these high interest debts first. Okay, so once you have all of your high interest debts paid off, or let's just say you don't have any high interest debts, then the next thing I would do with $10,000 is I would buy a personal home if I do not have one already. Now listen, I invest in everything. I love real estate, I love stocks, I love investing in businesses, I also love crypto. But here's the thing, in my opinion, when you're just starting out, okay, and you don't have that much money, you got your first $10,000, instead of investing in things like stocks, I would highly recommend that you look at buying your first personal home because of all the advantages of leverage that real estate has to offer. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So when it comes to real estate, the thing I love about it is that you can use leverage. Okay, so let's say you have $10,000 and you're going to put down anywhere from 3.5% to 5% down for an FHA loan. So let's just keep numbers easy, let's say 5% down. That means that at 5% down, you could literally acquire an asset that's worth $200,000. Okay, now let's say that $200,000 asset appreciates about 5% over the course of the next year. The average home appreciates between 4 to 6%. And so let's say we do 5%, let's say we cut it right down in the middle. If we take $200,000, that literally comes out to 10 grand. So literally, you started with 10, you made $10,000 profit, so you're literally ending up with $20,000. That's huge. You're not going to get a 100% return on an index fund in a year. This is why I love starting with personal homes in terms of building your net worth. Now, magnify that over the course of a couple years or a decade or two, this $10,000 turns into a massive return over time. Now, owning your own primary residence is a phenomenal way of magnifying wealth pretty fast. However, for some people, they already own a primary residence, and then for others, even if they don't own a primary home, they don't really want to go down that road of owning their first house just yet. So let's talk about a few other strategies that may help you magnify and even give you greater returns than the one I just showed you. Another phenomenal investment you can make is investing in a skill set. Now, if you're someone who doesn't make a lot of money or you're really wanting to magnify your income, I would highly suggest looking at this one. And that is because if it took you quite a while to save your first $10,000, odds are you may not be making a lot of money or you need to have a stronger budget. And imagine if you doubled your income, tripled, maybe even quadrupled your income or more, imagine how much faster that next $10,000 would be and how much quicker you could start building and magnifying your wealth. Now, there's all sorts of ways in which you can invest to grow your income and to grow your skill sets. And there's a million out there. You could learn photography, you can become an electrician, a mechanic, you can learn how to edit videos. But the biggest thing is look and see what is paying really well and what you are passionate about and see what could I do to quickly get the skill sets needed. And it may mean just a very small investment, but by doing so, you could double, triple, or even quadruple your income. When I first moved to LA, it was really challenging. I was working a bunch of low-paying side jobs, and I only made $19,000 my first year, but I managed to save $9,000. Now, the next couple years, I managed to make somewhere around the $40,000 mark, which is not too bad. However, it's not that impressive, and it's definitely not a lot of money for Los Angeles. That's when I decided that I wanted to really magnify my wealth, and I wanted to learn some skill sets that would help me begin earning much more. Now, I chose fitness and life coaching because I already had some knowledge in these areas, and I also had a passion for helping people create breakthroughs in their fitness and also in their overall life and overall satisfaction. Now, fitness certifications literally can be as cheap as a couple $100, or if you want to get to the master level programs, they can go all the way up to $2,000. After a lot of studying and after learning everything I need to become a fitness coach and a life coach, I was able to take a very small investment and literally that next year make over $100,000. Not only did I over double, almost triple my income, I was able to sustain and create a system now to where I was consistently making high income. Now that cash flow is kicking in every single month and I'm quickly saving more money and dumping it into other investments. Okay, so this next idea I really love, and that is to buy a business. Now, when I say buy a business, clearly you're not gonna be buying a business like Microsoft with $10,000. But what you can do is you can actually buy a small business. And in fact, there are thousands and thousands of small businesses for sale in your area that can generate really high returns. You see, what I love about businesses is that a lot of people don't like purchasing them because they require more work than just your typical rental property. But you can use that to your advantage and you can generate much higher returns if you buy the right ones. So there's a few things you want to look for. Make sure this business has been around for, I would say, at least 7 or more years. Absolute minimum 5, but I would be looking for 10 to 15 plus years. Financials. Like every other investment you ever do, make sure the financials add up. You want to make sure that you get a P&L statement for the particular business and look at what kind of revenue they're doing. How much is the owner actually collecting from this particular business? Worst case scenario, if you're not entirely sure, you can hire a CPA or an accountant to help you break it down and figure out what the real profit is. Number 3, negotiate. Just because someone lists a business for a certain price doesn't mean that you have to buy it for that. Okay, so how do you actually find these businesses? Let's talk about that. So finding a business actually isn't as hard as you think. And in fact, there's 2 places that I would go to begin to do this. Number 1 is you could go to Google and just type in local business brokers. Now, once you do that, just scroll down, click on a few different websites, and typically a business broker is going to have different businesses listed on their site that are for sale. If some of them look interesting, then of course you'd want to inquire and call. Now, when you call a business broker, I would mention a few things. I would say, number 1, I have $10,000 and this is the max I'm willing to put down on the business. But I want to find something that generates a very high revenue stream. The other thing I would ask is, hey, I would like to find a business, ideally someone who is closer to retirement and is willing to do seller financing. If that particular person owns the business and they're willing to do seller financing, you don't have to get approval from the bank. That person would be willing to finance for you, and you would create an agreement on paying them back under a certain number of years. In my opinion, seller financing really is the way to go in this area, because a lot of times banks will get very, very particular if you have not owned a particular business like this before. Okay, so this last one is a little more of an unconventional one, but it is cryptocurrency. But I was thinking, okay, so if someone doesn't want to own a business, they don't want to be a homeowner, what could they put their money into that historically has been pretty good, that has really good returns, that has the greatest chance of bringing a lot of wealth over time? Now, like I said, it's a little unconventional. However, cryptocurrency historically, since its inception, has done astronomically well. Keep in mind with Bitcoin is that it's very volatile. You may have some years that it jumps up 100, 200, 500, 1,000%, and then that next year it crashes like 90%. But keep in mind, no one has ever lost money in Bitcoin if they held for at least 3 years or longer. So if you're going to invest in something like cryptocurrency or in Bitcoin, my suggestion would be understand that it's a very, very volatile asset class. You may have some massive growth and then you may lose a massive percentage. The biggest thing is to keep emotion out of it and hold on to it for the long haul. But anyways, those are the suggestions that I have. If you're going to turn $10,000 into $1 million, leave some comments below of what you thought of the ideas. If you have another idea, leave it in the comments below of what you are doing to get that first million. Also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well. It means the world to me. Let's get out there and let's build that dream.